morning, everyone, and welcome to our first ever virtual Global Connections event. This event is spearheaded by the Department of Communication Studies, which is an academic department in the Humanities, Behavioral, and Social Sciences College here at Northern Caribbean University. I'm Nicolay Gunn.
And I'm Quinel Ming. We will be your hosts for today. And you know, Nicolay, we are delighted that you could all join us today and participate in this special feature of the department's annual Week of Excellence. Are we not delighted?
Oh, yes, we are.
In this global environment in which we live, the department seeks to provide its students with opportunities for career and educational advancement within the international community.
Indeed, and the department is very pleased with the number of its students who take the advantage of this opportunity, available in some of the finest universities in the world.
Indeed.
And the program we have for today will indeed highlight those opportunities. With us this morning are representatives from the following universities or institutions.
Well, I think we have Miss Sarah Azaden, Head of Legal and Consular Section at the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in Kingston, Jamaica. We also have Mr. Robert Adelson, the United States of America's Embassy Public Affairs Officer and Spokesman, along with Dr. Jody Jones, the Embassy's Educational Officer.
Indeed, we also have Dr. Michael Esther. He is from the University of West Georgia.
And we also have Mrs. Anita Neal and Alisa Higgins from Nestle Caribbean Limited.
And that's the lineup we have for you today, a very informative program that will help us to develop the skills we need to in a competitive advantage in the dynamic world of work. Don't go anywhere, because on the other side of this break is where the fun really begins.
On your marks, get set. Are you ready for Week of Excellence 2021? Well, pack your bags and let's go! The Department of Communication Studies Week of Excellence under the theme Developing Skills Built on Character. We kick things off on April 10 with our church service, leading up to April 15 with a grand social. And at 5 p.m. on April 18, we bring the curtains down with our annual Legnum Vitae Film Festival. That's the Department of Communication Studies Week of Excellence, April 10 to 15 and 18, 2021. Be there.
Them no more than we, big up Miss Daily, the specialty, all the love and energy. Them can't talk as we well grimy. Journalism, TV, PR, radio, still one family, yeah, you know it. Go tell you enough, me nah fi share no more info. Everywhere we go, we rep DCS for sure. Week of excellence, them can't pass you without consent. Come out and be proud cause we magnificent. All of DCS full up our talents. Week of excellence. Come from the hills, the valley mountains. Show everybody, bring all of your friends. Make this song be a new anthem. Week of excellence, week of excellence, week of excellence, week of excellence. Be there.
Brutality isn't a legality. There's no rationality as to why this abnormality should become a mentality. A mentality which kills and tortures. Are you really telling me you're afraid to speak up because you might be called an informer? Let us break the barrier of brutality and enforce it with alacrity. If you know someone who has been victimized, I charge you to I, interrupt their situations before their O. Oppressor continues to L, lurk in their lives. Let us E, extend our hands to our brothers and sisters who are being victimized, and N, never see violent acts and ignore them. Let us C, come together and be the E, example, so we may end a barrier on brutality.
Welcome back to Global Connections. We are working under the theme Developing Skills Built on Character. And we are in the segment of this broadcast that we are calling Around the World in 60 Minutes.
Indeed. That's because over the next hour or so, yes, we'll be favored with presentations from different parts of the globe. Our first presenter comes to us from Miss Sarah Azadan. Now, she's the head of legal and consular section of the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in Kingston, Jamaica.
We will be facilitating any questions you may have, so as they come, feel free to type them in the chat, and we will ask those questions for you. I now hand over to Miss Sarah Azadan.
Hello, very good morning to everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Good morning.
great. So let me share a presentation with you. Okay, I think you have to activate that I can share my screen. Okay. So,
In the meantime, Doming, how excited are you for this Week of Excellence?
I've been at NCU and in DCS for what, 3 going into 4 years now? It's been so long. And every time Week of Excellence come around, I'm always a bit excited because I think that is, we are a well-gelled department. You know, we take pride in,
Indeed.
you know, in the Burgundy Army. And, you know, I think Week of Excellence is one of the times where we can, you know, show our department spirit, in a sense, throughout an entire week. And I still think my first Week of Excellence was first year, because I think it's the most memorable, and especially the Sabbath service, you know, which I think we had one already, and we will have one coming again with, and then of course Film Festival, which is coming up soon. So,
and that's always an exciting part of it.
Of course, but Week of Excellence is always an event to be appreciated by our department.
Indeed. Okay, so now we will go back to Miss Sarah Azadan as she's ready with her presentation.
Wonderful.
okay, so again, a very good morning. I'm very happy to be here.
Good morning.
And I'm very happy that there is some interest in coming to my country and exploring career opportunities in my country.
Yes.
So,
And Miss Sarah, if I do, I know a little bit of German. So I know a little bit of the country and a little bit of the language. So Guten Morgen to you.
Good morning. That's very nice to hear.
Indeed.
So I don't know how much everybody knows about Germany. So my idea was to give you first a quick overview, a couple of facts about Germany, then go into studying in Germany, talk a little bit about the media landscape, and yeah, that's basically it. Then I'm ready for questions. So just a quick overview, facts about Germany. Is a federal republic. So similar to Jamaica, we have parishes, we have 16 federal states. And this is also important because they have some independence when it comes, especially to education. So if you think about studying in Germany, keep in mind that the universities are always slightly different. The laws are slightly different depending to what state you go to. Germany is about 33 times the size of Jamaica, and we have a population of 83 million people. So relatively big. Here are just some photos to give you an idea that the landscape is quite different. So in the right on top, you can see the very north, which is super flat and has a coast and a very unique environment there also. The picture in the bottom, you see the south, which has the Alps, so very high mountains. And then there's just a picture to show you some snow. So Germany has a wide range of temperature from cold winters to hot summers. So expect 4 seasons with very different climate and weather. Germany lies in the heart of Europe. So you can see there's the European Union and Germany is in the middle of it. We are a founding member of the European Union and are quite eager to foster the unification of the European countries. The EU has also a big say in laws in Europe and in Germany. And Germany is the biggest country and one of the major forces in the European Union. It is also the 4th largest economy in the world. And usually they count it as one of the world's largest exporting nations. So sometimes the largest, sometimes second or third, but one of the largest. And it is part of the Schengen area, which makes it very convenient once you are there. There are 26 countries you can travel to. Of course, now in pandemic times, a little bit more difficult, but usually without crossing any border controls, you can travel freely. So just a few things about the very recent history. After the Second World War, Germany was divided into an eastern and a western part. The eastern part closely associated with the Soviet Union, and so it was a communist country, and the western part more with the Western allies, for example, the US. And in 1990, the two countries were reunited. On the 3rd of October, which is still our national day. You can see that on the little map that the eastern part, our capital Berlin was within the eastern part and again divided into an eastern and western part, and whole of Germany was divided by a wall. So this is quite recent history, and although we're happy to live in a reunited country, if you go to Germany, you will still feel this history, and you will feel influences from the East as well as the West in German culture. Our capital is Berlin. Berlin is the largest city, has 3.8 million inhabitants. It also has the highest density of inhabitants. And you can see in the background the Berlin Gate, which was one part where the city was divided into East and West. So Berlin, the history is still very visible. It usually has two of everything, two big operas, two big of whatever a city would have, because one Eastern, one Western. We have 3 more cities that have more of 1 million inhabitants, which is Hamburg, Munich, and Cologne. And all in all, almost 80 cities with more than 100,000 inhabitants. So we're a relatively urban country with only 15% of people living in small villages of less than 5,000 inhabitants. And yeah, to mention, Frankfurt is the financial center and also seat of the European Central Bank. So that's in the middle of the country, our financial center. Okay, so going on to studying in Germany.
Indeed, the very important part, right?
Yes, I figured that would be interesting to you. So why should you study in Germany? First of all, we have excellent education. So if you study in Germany, you will get a very good education, and it will be highly recognized throughout the world. We have a really big landscape of different universities of applied sciences, different institutions. I will say a little bit about it in a second, and a wide variety of courses. So you can really practically study anything in Germany. And we have, most courses are still in the German language, but there is more and more English-speaking courses. So now we have more than 1,800 courses which are offered in English. And we have good opportunities on the labor market. So Germany has comparatively low unemployment rate. So anybody who studies in Germany will be permitted to stay there at least for 18 months after finishing his studies to, if he wishes to look for a job, and there are very good job opportunities. One very big plus also is that it is very affordable to study in Germany. Most of our institutions of higher education are public institutions. So they are subsidized by the government, and they do not take any tuition fees or take very low tuition fees.
Wow. No, that's a blessing, if I should say. It is indeed a blessing. So I would more than likely study at Germany sometime, because for some reason it was a choice for me if I want to go to Germany to study, or maybe Canada. But I chose my dear university here, Northern Caribbean University. But you can look for me in the future. How about you, me?
I mean, I have a problem with the cold. As she said, sometimes it gets very cold, but I think
Yes.
I'll still chance it a little bit, because Germany, from the presentation alone, seems like a nice place. And it's affordable, so why not?
Why not?
Why not?
All right, Miss Azlan, you can go ahead and continue with your presentation, as sometimes, of course, we will interrupt because of excitement.
I'm glad to hear I might see you in the future in Germany.
Indeed.
I must say our universities, as I said, it is very affordable, but don't expect that anybody will hold your hand. So we do expect of our students to be independent. Often people live not on campus, but they look for apartments. They pair up with other people to live together in an apartment, and they're quite independent. So this is maybe a difference to other countries where everything is set up for you. In Germany, you're expected to put together your courses yourself and organize a lot of things yourself, which gives you a lot of freedom also. And the last point, of course, it is a very safe country. So you have good healthcare, and it has a high high living standard. You have clean air, you have a lot of parks, you have healthy food, and of course, I would say a very nice culture. So Germany is the most popular non-English speaking host countries for international students. We have almost 400 institutions of higher education and almost 20,000 study programs. So as I said, you can study anything in Germany. And there are 2.9 million students. More than half of all young people in Germany enter higher education. So we are a country with a relatively high rate of people going into higher education institutions, and we're very proud of that. That's why we believe it should be affordable for anybody. It shouldn't be only people that come from a wealthy background, but it should really be affordable for anybody to study if they wish to. And in the background, you see the beautiful city of Heidelberg, which is holds one of the oldest universities in the world. It was founded in 1386, and still very has a very high reputation, especially when it comes to medicine. It's one of the top universities in the world. Okay, so we have different types of universities or institutions of higher education. Classical universities, universities of applied sciences, colleges of art, film and music, and research institutions. So the classical universities, they are mainly about theoretical knowledge. So it's very academical, and you can usually choose from a wide variety of subjects. There are technical universities that would specialize in one field, and they all offer PhD programs. So this is a bit different for the universities of applied sciences, which are more praxis-oriented. So you have a theoretical part, and if they are dual universities, you have a part where you actually have a contract with a company, and part of your training is actual working in a company, which is a nice thing because you would get paid already. If you are interested in learning by practice, then this is a very good and very successful combination that Germany is a bit known for doing this, and it's been quite successful, and often people end up working in the companies that they also did their training in. So we have one institution that's called the DAAD, Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst, or German Academic Exchange Service. And this is the institution that is responsible for answering all questions of international students coming to Germany. They also give out sponsorships, and they represent all the universities in Germany. So it was founded in 1925 in Heidelberg, and it is now one of the most important funding organizations in the world for the international exchange of students. So if you have any questions, of course, you could contact me, but also the DAAD would be the ones who have specific answers about any programs and also about scholarships.
Okay, Ms. Azadan, just to cut you a bit there, as it relates to this program, right? Where do we go outside of contacting you? Where do we go to get these scholarships as international students? Like a website?
Yes. So, so here are a couple of websites So on the website of the DAAD, there's all the information. And there's also one subpage that is about scholarships, and there you can type in your country of residence and your subject, and if you want to, what kind of scholarship you're looking for. Most scholarships for the DAAD are not for a first degree. So they usually do not fund a bachelor's degree, but a master's or a postdoc or a PhD, or also short research trips. But yeah, so there you could type in your information. I also I looked at a couple. For example, there's one scholarship about postgraduate studies in the fields of fine art, design, visual communication, and film that Jamaicans would be able to apply for. There's an international media studies master program in Bonn that there are scholarships available for. Yes, and the others are just some.
Thank you very much, Miss Azena. Now, I have a question. As you touched on DAAD, and you said this advises international students coming into Germany. Now, in the Caribbean, Jamaica is the third largest Caribbean island in the Caribbean Sea, with a population of about 2.2 million. Yeah. Now, compared to Germany, which is 33 times larger than Jamaica, and one of the cities in Germany has, you said, 1.8 million. Now, what advice or how easy it is for a Jamaican when transitioning to the German environment to, adapt to the culture and, the food and the language and all these things that come in with moving to a new area. How easy would it be for me to come to Germany and start school?
Well, I would recommend you come in summer. The weather shock is not too big, but especially if you move to a bigger city like Berlin or Hamburg, they are very international. So you would for sure meet people from your country. You would meet people from all different countries. So I feel it's a quite welcoming society.
Right. That's great.
But yeah, of course, some things are different.
And you mentioned difference, but what about similarities? I know we love football in Jamaica, and I know Germans are big on football as well, and especially with the World Cup.
Listen, I never forget them winning 2017 World Cup.
Right. You said come in the summer when the weather and the climate is not so different, and we have football. What are the similarities are there that we can look forward to?
One similarity is the love for music. So actually Germans do love Jamaica a lot. It has one of the biggest reggae music markets outside of Jamaica.
Wow. Okay.
We love concerts and festivals. So you would, if you like to, you would encounter a lot of music. In summer, as we do have a period in time that we don't spend so much outside. In summer, we like to be outside. We have a lot of parks. Okay. So this is where people would meet, where you would hear music.
Okay.
We have international food. So you would find all kinds of different food, as we are in immigrant country as well as Jamaica.
Okay.
That
so reggae music, football, and warm weather in the summer. I think that's enough to get me to come to Germany. I don't know what else do you have in the presentation as we're trying to close off really quickly.
Okay, so the AAD scholarships, So as I said, mostly for master or PhD or postdoc programs. Here are some of the websites you can find information on. And yeah, those are just a couple of programs that I thought would be interesting. There's, for example, I mentioned the first two. There's Hochschule der Medien in Stuttgart, which is one university that's entirely focusing on media in a very broad way. So you can, for example, learn classic book printing techniques up to any online media, web communication. There's one University of Applied Sciences in Europe where they offer studies in game design, photography, illustration, film and motion design. And there are two famous journalism schools, but you would have to know some German to go there, which is from two publishing houses. One is the Henry Nannen Schule and one the Axel Springer Academy. But there is countless different institutions. So this is just a very
on the surface, in a nutshell. All
Yes.
right, Ms. Azadan, I'm indeed impressed. I'm about the safety, about the affordability, and just the food. You said healthy food is there. I'm just ready. I'm ready to go to Germany and study. Maybe I go ahead in this the science program. Who knows? But thank you so much for presenting. We enjoyed just right throughout, from you explaining from the climate to the schools, the cities. That was, yes, everything that you have stated was very interesting, especially the part as it relates to finances, the affordability of those classes, courses, and everything that we have to do. Thank you. Thank you. Kunal, so what is next on our list?
Our next set of presenters come to us from the United States of America Embassy. The first, Mr. Robert Adelson, who is the embassy's public affairs officer and spokesman, and he is joined by Dr. Jody Jones, the embassy's educational officer. Advisor. I'll hand over to them.
All right.
Hello, thank you guys so much for having us on today. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here to speak with you all today. And I want to thank the organizers, and you two back at the desk are doing a fantastic job. You guys look great.
Oh, thank you very much.
You sound good.
Wow, thank you.
So, I want to thank the organizers and my fellow speakers for taking the time as well. As you all mentioned, I'm the public affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston. I arrived back in September, but I'll be here until 2023. I really wish I could be meeting you all in person, but once COVID is done, I promise I'm going to come out to Mandeville.
Looking forward to it.
On behalf of the embassy, I wanted to thank Northern Caribbean University for its tremendous support and partnership on U.S. government programs over the years. A couple of examples of recent partnerships include a media literacy exchange program with the Museum of Washington, D.C. in 2018, U.S. Embassy Kingston's Black History Month and Caribbean American Heritage Month film and discussion series in 2019, as well as acting ambassador or charge d'affaires John McIntyre's participation in the Anti-Human Trafficking Forum held back in February 2020 at your university, which of course was just a few weeks before COVID-19 changed our way of life. As I mentioned, I'm the public affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston. Part of that involves engaging with the media and explaining and defending U.S. foreign policy to a foreign audience. Unlike you all, I actually didn't have a background in media or journalism or communications.
Oh, wow.
But I've been a practitioner in the field for over a decade. So I've done this job here in Kingston. I was also posted in Guyana previously, as well as London and in Mexico. And I've spoken to tons and tons of different groups, and I can say that university students are always my favorite. I was also a former teacher. I taught public school in the Bronx, New York. That was a great experience, and education is always core to what I do. And so, another great part of my job, other than engaging with the media, is encouraging young people like yourself to study in the United States. The U.S. is actually the world's leader in hosting talented international students, and the U.S. hosted approximately 1.1 million international students across our over 4,000 higher education institutions for the academic year of 2019-2020. And it remains the top global destination for study abroad. In other words, the world goes to America to study. Although I gotta say, Germany looks fantastic as well. But we hope you will think about studying in the United States, because international students not only engage with their American classmates and improve the learning environment on campus, but they take the American experience home with them, which serves to strengthen civil society and democratic institutions in their own countries.
Right.
My office is also responsible for administering the Fulbright Foreign Student Program. This is a U.S. Department of State program that emphasizes cultural and educational exchanges between the U.S. and Jamaica. The Fulbright program provides grants to qualified individuals who are pursuing master's or doctoral programs. So that basically means you get paid essentially to go study what you want to study in the U.S., or you get stipends or free tuition. My colleague could follow up on that, who's coming after me. But follow our social media platforms at U.S. Embassy JA, or our website, jm.usembassy.gov, for details on upcoming opportunities. Another program my section manages is Education USA. It's a State Department network with over 400 student advising centers all around the world. The primary function of these centers is to provide international students with accurate, updated, and unbiased information about study opportunities in the US. We actually have one in Kingston at the US Embassy. It's called the Robeson American Center. Of course, due to the pandemic, it's mostly closed off to visitors, but we're really hoping we can open it back up soon, and we want to invite you guys to come out, check it out, use the resources, and talk to Jody, who you're going to hear from in just a second. Graduate studies in the field of communications is becoming an increasingly relevant field, and we're very, very happy that you all are interested in possibly studying in the United States. So again, thank you all to the organizers, thank you to the other guest speakers, and of course, thank you to the students for being here today. I want to hand it over to my colleague who can get into more of the nitty-gritty details and logistics. Her name is Dr. Jody Ann Joes. She is the Education USA advisor, and she's going to share with you some possible ways that you can access these programs and some other things that she'll expand upon. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Can I just say that I like how friendly you are? It seems it seems to let me enjoy the presentation even more as we go to your dear colleague.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Bobby, for the introduction, and thank you, NCU, for inviting us. This is actually the most excitement I've had since COVID struck, and I don't know if that says something more about the pandemic or more about my my leisure time. But thank you so much. As Bobby stated, NCU has been a long-time partner of the U.S. Embassy, and we genuinely appreciate the relationship that we've had over the years. So just let me give you a little background on EdUSA. As Bobby stated, we're a global network. We have advising centers in almost every country in the world. And some countries, especially the larger countries like Mexico, for example, have multiple centers. I believe Mexico has approximately 26 centers. Jamaica being such a small country, we only have one center. However, this one center, it basically takes up the work of 100 centers because we have traveled all over the country. In fact, prior to COVID, a couple of years before COVID, we did 2 island-wide tours. One I did myself and a colleague of mine. We went to high schools around the country, and then the following year, our ambassador took it upon himself to do a school tour, just schools in general, not necessarily just high schools. And we also did a tour traveling to the various parishes and visiting those many schools. So we're intimately familiar with with the education landscape in Jamaica. We provide free consultations to students. In fact, everything we do at the Robeson American Center is free to the public. So that's one question that we get often, is there a charge for this service? Is there a charge for that service? I spare everyone the trouble by just stating that everything, just assume that there is no charge. So even our college fair, which again, thanks to COVID, was just briefly interrupted. We usually keep one every year in October, where we invite approximately 40 US universities to participate. That's free for students. Or one-on-one consultations is free. Also, we provide consultation for students for every level, from the associate's degree level up to the PhD level. Students can make an appointment to speak with me. Now everything is done virtually, which for some students is actually more beneficial, because I've been able to reach students from all over the country, just virtually. Before, students would have to travel. I've had students come as far, as Westmoreland to come in to Kingston to speak with me. And, which just goes to show the strength and the opportunities for studying in the US.
Yes.
People, like Bobby said, there are over 1 million international students currently studying in the US. And this is not by accident. So there are over 4,000 institutions, first of all. So you can't beat the diversity and the variety of, and the options. There's so many institutions, like I tell my students, there are so many schools available and so many programs available in the US. Like, please don't limit yourselves. A lot of Jamaicans have tendency to default to Florida and New York, which is fine. Florida and New York are great, but like I tell them, there's so many other more states and universities out there. So you're really putting yourself at an advantage just by limiting yourself to the 2 or 3 schools you've heard of. So another thing I like to talk about, or the 3 main things I like to talk about, is specifically for graduate students. So the 3 main things, or 3 main tips I can give you to set yourself up for success are: 1, fine-tune your thesis statement; 2, train for the GRE or the respective standardized tests, but in most cases it will be the GRE. Train for it like you're training for the Olympics. And 3, be extremely organized.
Oh, yes.
So let me just go over the 3 in its more detail here. So to fine-tune your thesis statement, what does this mean? If you do not have a thesis statement at the moment, get one. And here's why. So graduate school is a little different from undergraduate in the sense that you should kind of already know what you're going to do before you do it. And I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but follow me here. So in graduate school, especially if you're applying for like a PhD, your advisors or your professors, the people you're working with, they actually want you to be an expert even before the first day you step, the first day of class, right? And what this means is you should, and when I say expert, I mean, you're not going to go in like a know-it-all, but you should have a passion and have a direction of where you're going, right?
I agree.
So if you have a thesis statement, now is the time to fine tune it. If you don't have one, now is the time to get one and fine tune it, right? And that will also help to direct you to which programs to apply to, because like I said, there are over 4,000 schools. So you want to be able to kind of narrow down your options before you even apply, because there's no way you're going to apply to so many schools, right? So it kind of helps you to organize the schools you're applying to. The next tip I'll have for you is to train for the GRE, the GMAT, the whichever standardized tests you're applying for or studying for. Train for it like the Olympics. Now, I know I'm saying a lot of acronyms here. So the GRE is the general test, a graduate record examination. This is 9 out of 10. This is the exam you're going to study for. The GMAT is primarily geared towards business schools. So if you're applying for an MBA program, for example, more than likely you have to apply for the GMAT. LSAT for law school and MCAS for medical schools. right? So, but like I said, most students that come to us, they're interested in the GRE. So the GRE is a test of speed and accuracy. Need both. The students have one or the other, and it's usually serves to your detriment. You need both. So, which is why I said, think of it, if you can think of it more as physical exercise or training for like a marathon or the Olympics, it would be better, you'd be better able to manage a test. So one thing I recommend to my students is study the test types, the question types. So if you're trying to memorize the actual, the actual specific test itself, you're doing yourself a disservice. What you want to study is the actual format of the test, right? And then you also want to time yourself on each question type. Even the GRE even gives you recommendations on how long you should spend on each question type. You want to time yourself and try and beat that time. So you should be successively, progressively trying to get faster and faster. And of course, more accurate along the way while you're testing. So that's another tip. Because the GRE, it's a marathon. It's a 3.5 hour test. There is a little break in between, but I promise you, speaking from personal experience, that break, it's almost like it never happened. So you really need to set yourself up to be sitting down for 3.5 hours and just being focused during that time. So that leads me to my third thing. The next thing is you want to be extremely organized, right? The graduate admission application process takes approximately 1 year. So if you're the type of person like me who loves Excel spreadsheets, this will serve you very well. If you're not that type of person, maybe buddy up with somebody who is like that. It helps to be anal retentive when applying for graduate school, trust me. So you want to have every single thing organized down to the specific deadline. It would be good if you have like a tabular format of the different programs you're applying to, so you can compare and contrast. And then, of course, even with the GRE prep study, you need to have a schedule, like what day you're going to study what week you're going to study what, and stay on schedule. It's very important. As Jamaicans, we love this thing called bly. Give me a bly, little leeway. There's no bly in applying for graduate school. If the application deadline is January 1st, try and get your application in from December 15th. I mean, I've made sure to have everything sent FedEx or sent DHL, whatever, the fastest possible method. And I made sure to get my signature that's okay, it was signed by J. Jones on X date. So you want to keep records, like meticulous records of when your applications were sent and who signed for them, what date, etc. So those 3 tips, having a finely crafted thesis statement, intensely studying for the GRE, and being extremely organized, I'd say serve you best for graduate school. And financial aid is really not a problem for students that meet that criteria. In fact, especially at the PhD level, if you're applying for a PhD, as one advisor told me, if you don't get fully funded, then you probably need to go and retake your GREs, or do something else in your profile that will make you a better candidate. Because in fact, most PhD candidates, I'd say 99.9% of them are offered full funding. At the master's level, it's a little less funding just because of the duration of it. Master's usually about approximately 1 to 2 years, whereas PhD can take it up to 7 years. So usually there's a little less funding available for master's students, but nevertheless, there's still financial aid available for strong students. So I'd say use these 3 tips to your advantage. Craft your thesis statements, prep for your standardized tests, and be extremely organized, and it will serve you well in your graduate application process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. John. Now I have just one question. Now we're in the pandemic. It's no news to anybody. We're in a pandemic, and and the U.S. and traveling to the U.S. is nothing new to Jamaicans and Caribbean people. What online opportunities are there for us? If we want to enroll in a university in the U.S., we can't travel, whether because of financial troubles or because the pandemic is holding us back. How can we still, receive all of these opportunities online?
Right. So the thing with COVID is that a lot of universities have become extremely flexible, or have been extremely flexible in countering the effects of COVID. So one of the things that universities did, the first thing that university did was waive the standardized tests. So I encourage all my students, if you've been hesitating about applying to graduate school, because you're afraid of the little GRE, now is the time, because a lot of schools are actually waiving this examination because of COVID. And also a lot of schools have also been more flexible in providing hybrid course offerings. So there are a lot of our students right now who actually came back home since COVID and actually taking their courses virtually because of the pandemic. So what the takeaway from this is, the university will work with you. Yeah, they are going through this just like us. So they are very much aware of what's going on, the risk involved, and their first priority is to keep their students safe, to keep us safe. So they do everything within their power to make sure that you get the best education possible while staying safe and keeping those social distance measures in place.
All right. I think that's a whole lot of very necessary information that we need.
Yes.
Don't you agree, Nicolay?
Yes, I do. And I really do appreciate the life acts as it relates to just organization, and also for exams and all of that. I really did appreciate those life hacks.
And with that, I just want to thank Mr. Adelson and Dr. Jones. And just before they go, just if you weren't here at the beginning and you don't really know who you're watching on the screen, let us just repeat that for you. Now, Mr. Adelson, and I see his nickname is Bobby, and I heard Dr. Jones referring to him as Bobby. Now, Bobby is a Foreign Service Officer with the U.S. State Department and the Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, Jamaica. Now, prior to this assignment, Bobby served as a deputy spokesperson for the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs. Previously, Bobby also served as a special assistant to the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs and as digital content strategist in the State Department Digital Media Office. His overseas assignments include tours as the Public Affairs Officer and the U.S. Embassy in Georgetown, Guyana, Assistant Cultural Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy in London, United Kingdom, and Consular Officer at the U.S. Consulate in Ciudad, Mexico.
Indeed. And for the wonderful Dr. Jones. Now Jodian Jones is an experienced Education USA advisor with over a decade, over a decade of experience working in higher education. In addition to this, she also is the first-hand knowledge studying in the U.S. Jones completed both her undergraduate and graduate degrees at the University of the Tampa and Old Dominion University, respectively. Now, Mr. Adelson and Dr. Jones this presentation was beyond, and as we delved into just more of these presentations, it's just informative. I love it. It's one to really put in place in a time like this, as Dr. Jones said, that with COVID, this is one of the most exciting thing that she has experienced, and that's because of passion. As we just take a break from this section, we will be refreshing you on some of our very, advertisements here at Northern Caribbean University. Do have yourself a wonderful rest of the time as you wait for us to come back with more informative presentations.
On your marks, get set. Are you ready for Week of Excellence 2021? Well, pack your bags and let's go! The Department of Communication Studies Week of Excellence under the theme Developing Skills Built on Character. We kick things off on April 10 with our church service, leading up to April 15 with a grand social. And at 5 p.m. on April 18, we bring the curtains down with our annual Lignum Vitae Film Festival. That's the Department of Communication Studies Week of Excellence, April 10 to 15 and 18, 2021. Be there.
Week of excellence, them can't pass without consent. Come out and be proud 'cause we're magnificent. All of DCS full of talents. Week of excellence, come from the hills, the valley mountains. Show everybody, bring all of your friends. Make this song be a new anthem. So we step out now with Burgundy. Them no more than we. Big up Misty Ellie. To the specialty, all the love and energy. Them can't talk 'cause we all Grammy. Journalism, TV, PR, radio. Still one family, get you know it. Go tell you enough, me nah fi share no more info. Everywhere we go, we rep DCS for sure. Week of excellence, them can't pass without consent. Come out and be proud 'cause we magnificent. All of DCS full of talents. Week of excellence, come from the hills, the valley mountains. Show everybody, bring all of your friends. Make this song be a new anthem. Week of excellence, week of excellence, week of excellence, week of excellence. Be there.
Brutality isn't a legality. There's no rationality as to why this abnormality should become a mentality. A mentality which kills and torture. Are you really telling me you're afraid to speak up because you might be called an informer? Let us break the barrier of brutality and enforce it with alacrity. If you know someone who has been victimized, I charge you to I, interrupt their situations before their O. Oppressor continues to L, lurk in their lives. Let us E, extend our hands to our brothers and sisters who are being victimized, and N, never see violent acts and ignore them. Let us C, come together and be the E, example, so we may end a barrier on brutality.
Back to Global Connections, and if you weren't here before the break, we're currently in the segment called Around the World in 60 Minutes. And you know something, Nicola, it is so important to mention that education is not in a vacuum, but it takes into account traveling and learning different cultures. Now, yes, we've had a wonderful presentation so far in the program, and we have another one coming from Dr. Michael Hester. Now, who is Dr. Michael Hester?
Tell us.
Well, I'll read from the script. Dr. Michael Hester is completing his 26th year as the director of debate at the University of West Georgia. Under his leadership, UWG Debate has won 3 national championships, most recently in 2015, and he has twice been recognized as the National Coach of the Year, most recently in 2017. Now, Dr. Hester earned his bachelor's degree in political science from West Georgia College, his master's degree in speech communication from the University of Georgia, and his PhD in communications from Georgia State University, where his dissertation was the first scholarly work analyzing White House ceremonies celebrating sports champions. His scholarly publications include contributions to books on diversity in higher education administration as well as alumni networking in debate, and most recently co-authored the book Winning Political Debate. I think I want to read that one, which was published last September and is available on Amazon. Nicolene.
Wow. And in addition, Quino, to the coaching debate, Dr. Esther has held several titles at UWG, including Dean of Honors College, Special Assistant to the Chief Diversity Officer, and since 2018, he has been the coordinator for the African American Male Initiative. Now, Dr. Esther is the programming chair of the Georgia Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education, serves on the University System of Georgia AAMI Advisory Council, and was most recently elected the chair of the board of directors for JADE, which is the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment.
Right. That was a lot from us.
Yes.
Now we want to hear from Dr. Hester. Now, Dr. Hester, we're handing over to you. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I guess I should have mentioned one other aspect of my accolades is I am a proud frequent visitor to Manchester and specifically to Mandeville. I've got my coffee cup to prove it that I'm going to drink from right now. my NCU coffee cup. So thank y'all very much. I'm sad I can't be there in person. I do look forward to being there as soon as possible, as soon as the travel restrictions relent and it's capable. You'll definitely see me back in Mandeville as soon as possible. And since weather was mentioned earlier, I'll tell you that the high today in Mandeville is forecast to be 29 degrees. The high here in Carrollton, Georgia, in the southeast is forecast to be 27 degrees. So similar temperatures for roughly 8 months out of the year. We do have a colder winter than my friends in Jamaica, but pretty much the spring, summer, and fall matches what you're going to get in Mandeville. So for those that are considering doing graduate school, I would recommend the Southeast or generally the southern states. For those of you from Jamaica who are a little worried about traveling too far north, we have plenty of states here in the United States that offer a reasonable facsimile of the type of weather that you're going to get. Now, you're not going to get the same beauty. My background here is the coastline of Portland.
I was about to ask about that. You know.
You're not necessarily going to get that, but we do have some nice beaches as well. So thank you very much for having me. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got lots of information that I want to talk about. And it really is going to be a description of sort of my background. So it was mentioned earlier that I hold higher ed degrees in communication from both University of Georgia, where I earned my master's, and Georgia State University, where I earned my PhD. So I'm not just going to limit my conversation to the University of West Georgia. I'm also going to talk about those two schools. And really, to build off of Jody Ann's presentation and her tips, I've got some tips as well. I found those to be very helpful, and I want to share the same sort of information. So with that in mind, I'm sharing my screen here, and now I'm going to take a look at a few. Let's start with University of West Georgia. So we do have an undergraduate program. We don't currently offer any graduate programs, but I do have an update on that as well. So the word is that next year we will become a school of communication. So we have a school of nursing on campus that sort of sits by itself. It's not housed in any other college. What you traditionally have in the U.S. university system are departments that are housed in colleges. And so you have like a College of Arts and Sciences that houses the psychology department and the political science department and perhaps the history department. And you would have the communications department located within arts and sciences. Our communication department is considered large enough and successful enough that it's off by itself right now, and we're transitioning to a school of communication, and we expect to have graduate programs as early as 2 years from now, so beginning in what would be the fall of 2022. So if you're watching this now and you're currently in, say, your second year at NCU as an undergraduate student, by the time you're graduating from NCU with your bachelor's degree in communications or communication studies from the DCS, you should consider the University of West Georgia graduate program. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what's offered here to give you a sense of how communications is frequently disaggregated in the United States, because our mass communication department, which some universities refer to as their journalism department, is going to break it down. And so we have 4 concentrations here at the University of West Georgia. We offer a degree in mass communication with a concentration in one of the following: public relations, digital media and telecommunications, convergence journalism, and film and video production. And then in addition to those majors, you can receive a minor degree, which is essentially like a certification in communication studies, which is our version of rhetoric, and film and video production, as well as in public relations. And so we offer those as minors. So if you're majoring in something else, you can also minor in one of those essentially certification programs. Now, I want to turn your attention to the 2 schools that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to start with my PhD school, my alma mater in terms of my final doctoral degree, and that's Georgia State University, which is located in Atlanta. They have a Master of Arts in Communication, and so I'm showing you that information on the screen now, and you can read a little bit about that here. You can also see the URL for that is communication.gsu.edu. Will take you to the communication department. If you put a slash behind that and then graduate, it'll take you to the graduate programs that are offered. So you see these 2 master's programs. The master's in mass communication is going to be the closest that's going to mimic the type of programs and courses that you took at NCU in your Department of Communication Studies. And then there's a master's in digital media strategies as well. This is a non-thesis track, which means at the end of your 2 years in the master's, rather than writing a large paper like a thesis, instead it's more clinical based. And so you will do field work, much like you would do as if you were in graduate school for a medical degree. And then finally, we have a PhD in public communication, which includes an emphasis on media and society, rhetoric and politics. And I want to stress that within media and society at Georgia State, there is a very strong emphasis on international media. So when I was there, and this would have been about 15 years ago, well, 16 years ago when I was completing my PhD there was a very strong emphasis and specific courses taught on international media. So let's say you're a student at NCU and you want to go to the US for graduate school, but you're still really interested in coming back to the island to do your work. Don't feel like just because you go to the US, you can't study about Jamaican media or about Jamaican communications. You can still do that. Many of the universities that offer degrees on media are going to talk about and focus on international media. So going to the US doesn't mean that you have to leave behind your interest in your own nation, people, and culture. Something to consider. And that really brings me to one of the tips I want to highlight here is any research that you do, you should go to the homepage of that university and type in the search term international students. So I've done that for you here at Georgia State University. You'll notice the first link that pops up is international students with regards to Georgia State admissions. You're also going to see some information usually on whatever international student organizations they have or international student services that are offered. And so when I clicked on that link for admissions for international students, they're going to give you a step-by-step tips for how to apply. Many of the same tips that were mentioned earlier about the importance of the standardized test. It is true that most universities have waived that during the COVID, although I've gotten feedback from our admissions office here at the University of West Georgia that that is most likely a short-term step and that they will be returning to requiring that standardized test in the future. And I'm going to talk about that later when we talk about scholarships and what you want to consider for scholarships. You can see the requirements here. In order to study in the US, you're going to need a visa for students. So if you're living outside the US, you're going to require an F1 visa. There's going to be some additional paperwork. Luckily, I'm sure MCU is willing to help you with that. And as importantly, the school that you're interested in attending, if you contact their international admissions office, they'll be able to help you with that information as well. You don't have to, the concern here at the bottom for many international students who come from a country in which English is not the official language is there's proof of English proficiency. And so there's certain testing that might be required. Given Jamaica's status, that won't be a concern. So that's also one of the other benefits of studying, if you're Jamaican and studying in the US, is given that both countries recognize English as an official language, that sort of translation issue isn't a problem for you. And then I want to go into a little bit of deep dive here. So if you click on those links I showed you earlier, so when I was here, these explore the program links that you see at the bottom. I clicked on that for the master's in mass communication, and this is the page that shows up. So it not only provides you more information, but if you'll notice here where I'm running my cursor over and highlighting, you're going to get a contact point, right? So you can email this individual as well as call them if you want to gain more information. And so feel free to do that. If you want to, they're not going to remember me by name. They've graduated hundreds of students. But if you want to email them, you can definitely let them know that Dr. Michael Hester, an alumni of Georgia State, recommended that you as a student contact Georgia State admissions. Who knows, maybe it'll help you out some. So there's some information about their department. They talk about how long it takes to complete the program, and they have catalog program information that's going to tell you the coursework that is required of you. So going back to the earlier presentation on the German system of education, it is true that most universities in the US are going to have sort of a regimented program. It's expected that you take a certain number of hours, and some of those hours are dictated in terms of certain requirements. But to be fair, the flexibility is still going to exist in universities in the United States as well. For example, if you noticed in the bio that was mentioned of me, I ended up studying presidential rhetoric in my PhD program. So I took a course on presidential communication. If I was studying something different, I would not have taken that course. So there was flexibility. You're also usually encouraged and sometimes required to take courses outside of your department. So as a PhD student studying presidential rhetoric, I ended up taking a history course and a political science course each that talked about the history of the presidency and presidential and political communication. So you get sort of an interdisciplinary approach at schools like Georgia State University, which I loved my PhD program in the heart of Atlanta, a great location. I want to give you a couple of statistics in terms of Jamaican student representation. Here at the University of West Georgia, we have approximately 14,000 students. About 300 plus of them are international students. We currently on our campus this year have 21 Jamaican students. So we have 21 students here at the University of West Georgia who list as their country of origin, Jamaica. The Georgia State University has approximately 30,000 students. They have 222 students who list as their country of origin, Jamaica. So 222 students who would identify as Jamaican are studying at Georgia State University right now. So you would not be the first nor the only Jamaican student who would be attending Georgia State University. I'm going to quickly shift to mention the University of Georgia, which has also some graduate programs for you. They have a master's in journalism. So you can see this now under question 12, what graduate degrees are offered by Grady College, which is the name of their College of Journalism. They offer a master's in journalism and mass communication, a low residency Master of Fine Arts in narrative media writing. So you can see very specialized, and then a PhD in mass communication. Now, the University of Georgia is located northeast of Atlanta, approximately an hour and 45 minutes. And it has a student population of somewhere between 25 and 27,000 students. It has 17 Jamaican students currently studying at the University of Georgia, according to their data on their website. Again, I recommend going to type in international students. You find International Student Life is a particular link at the University of Georgia where they give you programs that are being offered, right? So some of the International Coffee Hour or Global Buddies program, they'll have dates, they'll have upcoming events for you, like the language labs for individuals for whom English is not their first language. And then you can see this in a large international student club that they have for their international students. So do not feel like you're alone on these campuses, and you can do plenty of research ahead of time. Now I'm going to stop sharing for a moment here and come back and talk a little bit about some of those tips. That last comment I made was about the need to do research. And so that's what I'm going to suggest as my first tip for those of you who are born and raised in Jamaica and want to leave the island to go to graduate school. When you're considering studying in the United States, recognize that a nation of approximately 330 million individuals And so it's one of the top 5 countries in terms of population. It's also one of the top 5 countries in terms of size. It's much, much larger than the island that you were born and raised on. And that means there are regional differences. So studying in, for example, in New Hampshire is going to be a very different experience than studying in South Florida. Studying in the state of Washington in the Pacific Northwest is going to be a very different experience than studying in Washington, D.C. on the Eastern Coast. It's going to be a different climate. It's going to be a different culture. It's going to be different people that you interact with. The overall language will stay the same, but there are dialect differences amongst those regions as well. And so I would strongly recommend thinking about how much of a different experience you want. You like the idea of traveling outside of Jamaica, but you don't like the idea of cold winters? That's fine. There are going to be universities in the United States that never have cold winters, right? If you study in Miami, Florida, then you're going to be having a climate that is extremely similar to that of Jamaica. If you study in South Georgia at, say, Valdosta State University, you're going to have a climate that is very similar to what you experience in Jamaica, okay? So you don't have to give up some of the things that you like about your country. That's also true of culture. If you study in a large city, for example, like Atlanta, you're going to find there's a fairly large Jamaican migrant population there. You're going to find Jamaican restaurants. You're going to find stores that offer the types of ingredients you want to cook your own Jamaican food at home. On the other hand, if you go to a school that might be a great university, but that's located in a much smaller city, what we would refer to as a town, you're not going to have that same cultural relevance. May not have an immigrant population that's significant enough to, say, have their own clubs, meetings, socials, things like that. And you need to consider that in terms of your making choices. The second tip in terms of research that I want to offer is research the university, especially if you're seeking to gain admission there. Take a look at the department. Take a look at the faculty. Drill down into your research. What do their faculty study? I want to give you an anecdote that I learned here studying when I was at the University of West Georgia. I wanted to discover if anybody at the University of West Georgia was doing research or scholarship on the island of Jamaica, about Jamaica. And so I just typed in Jamaica into the West Georgia search page, and I discovered Dion Bremiar. Dion Bremiar, her parents live in Manchester. She was born and raised in the same parish that Northern Caribbean University is located in. She has been an associate professor here at the University of West Georgia. She just accepted a position and next fall will be teaching at Notre Dame, one of our prestigious institutions that are located in South Bend, Indiana. It's going to be a lot colder there. So I discovered she had set up a study abroad program while she was at a different university for Jamaica. And that's, of course, what I've been working on most recently. This semester, I'm teaching an intercultural communication class that is teaming up with a colleague of mine at the University of Technology in Kingston. We're each teaching our students. They're interacting with each other. But that quick search that I did about Jamaica on West Georgia's website got me in touch with Professor Dr. Bremiar. We were able to do a lot of conversing about things we want to do. I got some good tips for her. She shared some syllabi for me. You can do that as well. Go to the university that you're interested in, do a search, look for a search term for Jamaica, do a search term for the Caribbean. Are there professors there that are doing scholarly research on Caribbean studies, on Jamaica? Are there faculty that are from the island that may now have a position, a faculty position at the university you're interested in studying? If so, reach out to them, mention that, hey, I'm interested in coming there as a fellow Jamaican. What can you tell me about it? How is it? Can you get me in touch with some people? Making those connections is going to be easier for you if you're willing to do that initial research. It'll also help you with that thesis statement that was mentioned. If you can say in the personal statement that the reason why you're interested in this university isn't just that it's located in a particularly warm climate, but that there are faculty in the department that you want to study in that are doing the type of research that you want to do, that's going to make that connection. That's going to strengthen your application and make you a more attractive candidate. With that in mind, the last thing I want to say is talking about the assistantships. So it was mentioned earlier that most PhD students tend to be fully funded. I'm going to tell you right now that even master students are frequently funded. And here's how it's referenced. The term is a graduate assistantship. And there are two basic types of graduate assistantships. There's the GRA, which stands for Graduate Research Assistant, and there's the GTA, which stands for Graduate Teaching Assistant. Now, that latter category, Graduate Teaching Assistants, those individuals receive a stipend, and they usually have all of their tuition and fees waived. And in return, they offer their services as a teacher. So you will be a master's student teaching undergraduates an introductory course. For example, if you go to a master's program in communication, as a TA, as a graduate teaching assistant, you're going to teach their basic introductory public speaking course, right? That's how it works. A graduate research assistant, on the other hand, instead of teaching to earn their assistantship, is going to work closely with a faculty member on a research project that faculty member is interested in, and essentially do a bunch of grunt level research work for them. And so that's why I mentioned earlier doing the research on faculty and learning more about them. You may discover that there's a faculty member at the school that you're interested in attending who's interested in researching on Caribbean studies, or perhaps even specifically the island of Jamaica. You reach out to them, you mentioned that you're interested in coming there and you're interested in what they're studying, and the light bulb is going to go off in their head and says, hey, if we bring in this student as a GRA, they can be my research assistant. They'll be able to get me lots of information about the island. They've got personal connections there, especially if that faculty member isn't originally from the Caribbean. They're going to look at you as a personal resource that's very attractive. This can potentially get you an assistantship. So don't think of it as, I'm leaving my island, I'm going off to this foreign land of the United States, I don't have any connections, I'm just sort of on my own. It is true that one of the easiest ways to earn a scholarship, or what we call an assistantship in graduate school, is to have a high GRE score. That is definitely true, and I echo the comment that was made earlier of study for it like it's the Olympic trials, right? You have to do well on it. Having said that, there are other ways. You don't necessarily have to have the highest GRE score. As long as your GRE score comes in at a reasonable level, you may offer that school something extra. And that's where I want to conclude my comments and talk about that something extra. And I want to start by talking about NCU students. I've been to your campus. I've taught students who are undergraduate level at NCU. And I can say this honestly and bluntly. The best students at NCU are as good as any student studying anywhere in the United States. Do not believe that you are currently receiving an inferior education. You're not. In many respects, you're receiving a superior education.
Wow.
Okay, so have confidence in yourself. Is there going to be some translation issues in terms of taking the standardized test or moving far away? Yes, absolutely. But in terms of the knowledge that's in your head, and what you have been trained to apply in terms of that knowledge, you are well prepared. You can succeed. All you have to do is find the schools that want you. And that's where I'll conclude and say this. Different universities have different needs. When you get to graduate school, graduate programs want diversity. And when I say diversity, I'm defining that broadly. A medical school loves the idea of a math student applying to medical school, or an English graduate school loves the idea of a chemistry major applying to their English graduate program. So disciplinary diversity counts as well. But with regards to diversity as it relates to race and/or ethnicity and national origin, there are universities that are desperately seeking to increase the number of international students they have. They view international students as having cachet and bringing their experiences from their homelands to the domestic US students who are studying at this university, and the interactions between them are enriching for everyone. So just because a university doesn't have a lot of students from Jamaica or the Caribbean isn't necessarily a bad thing. It may actually be a very good thing. It may mean that what you bring to the table in terms of your background is just the type of spice that that university has lacked and is desperately seeking, right? So you can imagine in those instances, you're going to be a very attractive candidate for those schools. Now, I'll point out, those schools also are going to tend to be located in areas that don't have a natural Caribbean immigrant population, right? So you might have to make some sacrifices in terms of where you want to live climate-wise, because a school in the Northeast is desperate to get more international students and would love to have Caribbean students. And so they're offering you a scholarship you need to use some of that scholarship money to make sure you buy a big winter parka, right? You need to make sure that you get some snowshoes. On the other hand, there may be some schools in the Southeast in a small town. The climate's nice, but they're not necessarily going to have an expat Jamaican community living nearby that has Jamaican restaurants for you, that has the types of cultural influences. Instead, as a student, you're going to be expected to bring that to that local community. But I'm letting you know now, NCU students can succeed at any institution in the United States. And I'm familiar through my debate experience. I've seen students from every Ivy League institution, and the best NCU students can compete successfully with any of them. So don't hold yourself back if you're interested in studying in the United States.
Thank you so much, Dr. Heston. Now, I have two questions. And thank you especially for the reassurance at the end there and the vote of confidence.
Yes.
It's really good to hear from someone that, we're just as good as anybody else. And I think a lot of students, and our department especially, will appreciate that. Now, as you said, research and culture and so forth. Now, I'll try to start my research right now. As someone who is in tune with students at the University of West Georgia, when it comes to Jamaica students, are there any feedbacks from them, in terms of their coming to a new environment and adapting to a new system and a new culture? What has the feedback been like from the Jamaican students at West Georgia?
Yeah, so not just the Jamaican students, but also our Jamaican visitors. We've hosted visitors from NCU, as well as from University of Technology and UE, both the Mona and the West Jamaica campus.
Okay.
So you can talk to them as well. At the University of West Georgia, we have a student organization that is it's called SOCA, which is the Students of Caribbean Ancestry. It has approximately 80 members, and I'm the advisor for that student organization. Oh, wow. And so when Jamaican students arrive, they're hearing from the other Caribbean students that are here and being encouraged to join that organization. So you have sort of your own family, sort of a microcosm, right, where you can interact with individuals that are going to be familiar with your own background. The feedback is usually the same, which is summer and spring and early fall are awesome. So basically from where we are now, April to say August, those are fantastic months. September to March, it gets colder and they don't like that as much. And of course, we don't have an ocean. We don't have the beautiful ocean here. But see, for students who are growing up in Manchester, y'all don't have the ocean there either, right? You got to drive down to, if you want little Ochi, you got to drive a little bit down there, right? You got to get to the restaurant, or you got to drive north if you want to. So it depends on what part of the island they're from as to how different the experience is. I'll say that. Right, that even within Jamaica, we know that there's a lot of diversity. And so if you were born and raised in Kingston, Carrollton is going to seem like a small town. If you were born and raised in Port Antonio, Carrollton's going to seem like a big town, right? So it just depends on where you're from.
All right, my next question, or my final question, you would certainly recognize this. A lot of young persons are now doing master's degree programs, compared to, especially when I think my mom or they used to do the degrees, it was a lot of older students. But now we have a lot of young people, a lot of 20-year-olds, and it's because education is so free and affordable, and the opportunity to learn is so accessible. Now, one question I think a lot of people might appreciate: how is the master's program different, and a master's in communication program different from that of a bachelor's program? What's the difference like? How drastic is the change?
Sure, absolutely. So I want you to think about your undergraduate program as sort of being divided into two different types of courses. There's the general education courses that you're expected to take, and then there are the departmental, or what we would consider our major program courses you're expected to take. So by the time you're a senior at NCU and you're taking those upper level courses in communication studies in DCS, those courses are not going to really be all that different than the master's level courses that you'll take in a master's program, with the following differences. Depending on the size of your undergraduate institution, the class size may be different. Now, it's not going to be that different at NCU, because what we usually tell university students here in the US, especially if they attended a large university like Georgia State or UGA for their bachelor's, they were taking classes that may have had as many as 150, 200, 300 other students in it. They then get to their master's program courses, and those classes will have 15 students in them, maybe, right? So much smaller class size. But if you came from a university that already had those small class sizes, that's not going to be a lot of difference. Here's the other difference. And this was sort of mentioned earlier. I like the way Sarah mentioned this earlier, that we don't hold your hand. When you get to graduate school, the professors assume that you're going to do the readings outside of the class. We have this phrase we use in higher education in the US called a flipped classroom. And the flipped classroom is the idea that we don't show up together in the class and read the assigned readings together. Instead, those readings are assigned outside of class time. You're expected to do those on your own. Right. When we come to class, we talk about those assigned readings. Okay, we use that term flipped classroom to talk about undergraduate courses, but the reality is that is higher education. That is what's happening in master's programs and PhD programs. Is you're expected to read the course material outside on your own time. When you show up to class, we have a conversation about those. And because the smaller class side, everybody is expected to participate. But that's what I was saying earlier. When my NCU friends came and visited University of West Georgia, they attended some of our courses. And my faculty here at West Georgia were effusive in their praise of the NCU students and how interactive they were and how they participated in the classroom discussions. So I think y'all are going to see that it's not really all that different from what you're experiencing in the DCS when you take your DCS courses. When you get to your master's level, you're going to be okay at the start of those courses. I do want to echo a comment that was made earlier about the need to sort of, it's not necessary that you be an expert already. Yes. But the assumption is you know what you want to study. You know the topic that you want to study. And so my recommendation is have an idea. Having said that, there is some slack that's cut for the master's student. I didn't know what I wanted to write my master's thesis on until I was almost through with my first year. Even when I got to my PhD, I didn't show up with a topic for my dissertation. I discovered my dissertation while I was there. Wow. So they're not going to kick you out if you don't have those topics. Okay. But if you know ahead of time what you want to study, it benefits you because then they'll match you up with the faculty in the department who specialize in those areas, right? That's the benefit that comes. In terms of being prepared for it, study as best as you can, but recognize that's what any education experience is for. If you already knew everything, you wouldn't need the degree.
True.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Esther. It has been a wonderful, informative, of course, and at some point, touching presentation. Yes. I know that this information is certainly it has reached our viewing audience, right, and also even our crew members here, as some of them are on their final length. Final length. I'm just going to miss some of them. They really touched some of them, saying that they want to go into this master program. Yes. And now, even as we move on to our next presentation,
yes, we are almost through our 60 minutes, and here to cap off our presentations for today, we have Anita Neal from Nestle Niche for Youth. Anita Neal is a human resource manager trainee at Nestle Caribbean Limited. Now, a little bit more about Anita Neal. Anita grew up in the Garden Parish of St. Anne, where she was surrounded by everyday chit-chat about great parishioners such as Burning Spear, Bob Marley, and Marcus Garvey. She is an experienced singer, songwriter with original work published on all music streaming platforms. Anita was, in her earlier life, a track star for St. Anne's Bay Primary School competing district. I don't know why I'm not surprised. She's Jamaican after all. Anita is also an advocate for interpersonal and career development expansion, and as such, has a history of immersing herself in marketing, content creation, customer service, human capital management, drop shipping, and logistics. Lastly, while her hard and soft skills sets are evident, she has an affinity for communication, time management, and improving problem-solving skills. Somewhat of a perfectionist, some may say, her passion is usually evident in her interactions with others and her hard work. This nourishes her creative side, which traverses music, poetry, photography, design, and culture. Alisa Huggins is a Trinidadian working in the Human Resource Department of. We'll now bring her on. Alisa, talk to us.
Resources Department in Nestle, Trinidad and Tobago. A bit about myself. I had started Nestle about 2 years ago, and I started in the communications department. So I'm well versed in communications, and my major actually is communication studies with a minor in human resource management. So I am actually now into the human resources side, still applying some of the skills that I would have learned in my studies. But hopefully one day my aspirations is to get back into that field. And I'm so happy to be here. I feel really at home, given that everybody here is all excited about communications.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, awesome.
So Anita, take it away from our presentation today.
Sure, I will do that. All right, so good. Let me see the time on the clock. It's 11:41 a.m. So I can still say good morning to everyone.
Good morning to you too.
Good morning.
All right. Of course, Alyssa and I are quite pleased to be here with you all today. We have been, I can assure you, enjoying the presentation so far. We were typical, well, I guess quite tuned into a lot of them, especially the one with Germany, with Sarah.
Yes.
We're looking.
Indeed.
We're definitely looking. We're looking. But of course, we also want to do our part and share with you all information, valuable information that we feel will, just be the icing on the cake from today's presentations with you all. All right. So today we're going to inform you about Nestle Needs Youth and what it's all about and essentially how you can benefit, right? So let me know if I can continue and that you're seeing the screen quite fine, and I'll just jump right in. We're good to go? Okay.
Okay, Anita, our video is finished, so you can proceed.
All right, I was actually on mute there. I'm still not getting over that part. All right, so I was saying that I actually always love watching our Nestle videos about Nestle Needs Youth. They're always so colorful and they get you, quite consumed. And of course, I guess it's entrancing maybe. But of course, I believe it would have given you a bit of an idea of what we are about, right? So Nestle Needs Youth is, of course, we believe that communities cannot thrive if they fail to offer bright people or, just opportunities to younger generations. And this is why we are determined to help young people develop their skills so that they can find fulfilling jobs and create meaningful businesses for themselves and, essentially do their part to build the economies that they, live in. Nestle Needs Youth was created in 2013, and of course, its sole aim, nothing else, is to equip young people with the skills they need to thrive in tomorrow's workplace. And we did expand in 2017, and since then have been going full speed ahead. Alyssa, now, of course, our goal is to help 10 million young people worldwide access economic opportunities by 2030. And of course, we have to come home a little bit closer. We are in the Anglo-Dutch Caribbean, and so between Trinidad, Jamaica, and of course, Nestle, other Caribbean territories, we are definitely doing what we can to help our youth in this region. Continue, Alyssa. Now, we have 3 impact areas: entrepreneurship, employability, and agripreneurship. Of course, agripreneurship, our aim is to help those youth that are interested in learning about farming or, techniques that can assist them in scaling business that they have in this field. Employability, what we're doing here today is going to help many with their employability, I believe, learning the skills that you need to, finding those academic opportunities to improve yourself. We are partnering with schools like NCU that will help our students to get to this level of experience or employability so that they can find the jobs around them that will help them to lead the lives that, is actually a right of any human being, I believe. And of course, entrepreneurship, not everyone wants to work for an employer. People want to do things for themselves. And we do partner with other companies as well to provide programs that can help students or young people to venture out into anything that they believe would, add value to our society. Continue. Now we have 4 pillars, everyone. Here we are with Get Skilled to provide apprenticeship, internships, traineeship positions. And I want to say that, Nestle actually does quite a bit of this. Alyssa and I are actually beneficiaries of this program. Get Hired, providing employment opportunities to youth under 30. So during the interview process or the recruitment process, I would say, we do pay keen attention to ensuring that we are fair in providing opportunities to younger people. You're just leaving school, you may not have the experience for a role, and that's usually what people have to face. How do we get the experience if you won't give us the job, but you need the job to get the experience? And so we try to step in there quite a lot to aid our young people in that regard. Get support. Youth reached through readiness for work events. So an event like this is something typical of what we would do to, prepare young people for work. We've recently been a part of workshops or career fairs with other universities. NCU currently has one in the pipeline that we will also be a part of. Should I have said that? Maybe Shelly had wanted to keep that a surprise, so just forget I said that, okay? All right, and of course, get more opportunities, right? Like I said, we are big on partnership, and that is why we are here with NCU today. We partner with suppliers, external partners, NGOs, schools, anything that we can do to add value to the lives of young people, we want to work with others that, you know, have the same vision and goal for them. Continue, Alyssa. All right, so get hired. Young employees share their Nestle experience. As you can see here, we have some photos of some young employees. I think they're all under 30. And of course, we had a campaign where we just wanted all of them to share their experiences about the time they've had up to that point at Nestle and what it's been like. Some would have said it was quite different or intense. You know, they've been stretched quite a bit. Maybe they've improved their mental acuity. Maybe they've found ways of being creative. You know, we have a Yakuta program that largely helps individuals in Nestle Professional. You know, we've hired people in so many different departments: legal, graphic designing. Alyssa is currently in communications. No, Alyssa is in HR. She was in communications before.
I was in communications
HR.
before. Yeah.
Yes. So you see, we also provide you with the opportunity to stretch yourself. So don't think that you'll come into Nestle just doing one thing. You can definitely advance to wherever your heart's desire and what your capabilities allow you to do. Yes. All right. Continue. Alyssa? Okay. All right. All right, so for Get Skilled, this is actually our country manager. I will tell you, he is one of the kindest individuals you will ever meet and quite passionate about young people. You see that smile on his face? It is quite authentic. I want to say that he beams or he lights up when he sees young people, you know, making the most of opportunities like this, right? Of course, we do have summer interns. Those typically last for 3 months. We are currently trying to get off the ground something called a Nesternship, where due to COVID and how it has impacted us, you know, we would love to have interns come on board virtually. So they get a laptop, they get to learn more about their responsibilities, and they just get to work from the comfort of their home, not having to worry about, you know, trying to hide from COVID, right? Of course, Yakuta, as you're seeing here, and of course it provides our chefs, you know, aspiring cooks like myself. I probably will never be a part of a Yakuta program because I'd rather not burn anything. I prefer to learn on my own until I get there. But you know, these are just some of the programs that our young people can take advantage of, right? We currently have nutritionists that are working with our Nestle Health Wellness program with Wellness on Wheels, right? Can you imagine, you know, those communities where they don't know about their numbers, like, you know, your weight, your body mass index, you know, your blood pressure numbers, like all of these things, our young people can help us to do. And if they're coming from school and they can provide that resource, we love it, and we are 100% behind them. Alyssa? All right, get support. So of course, this is another area. On-site and virtual interview consultations we've had during our career fairs. You know, I think we've pulled off quite a few, but due to COVID, they haven't been scaled as much as possible. But of course, you know, we offer things like LinkedIn Unlimited Learning Licenses. We had a little program where we wanted to offer students the opportunity to take advantage of LinkedIn Learning. I personally used it outside of Nestle's offering, but if you know anything about LinkedIn Learning, it allows you to subscribe to a service that provides short courses on pretty much anything, you know, from digital marketing to what else, Alyssa? Digital marketing, you know, maybe human resource management.
There's basically anything,
public speaking,
anything that you want to learn, it's on LinkedIn.
anything that you can think of,
yeah,
it is there, and the subscription is literally minimal, you know, per month. So, you know, we thought that was something we could definitely offer to our students. Alyssa can definitely tell you more about Massey Boys to Men Rites of Passage. A little joke here. whenever I see this program, Boys to Men, I always think about the group, Boys to Men. But you know, I'll let Alyssa
Yeah,
inform you more
so
about it.
for the Massey Boys to Men Rites of Passage is basically us linking up with one of our NGOs, which is Massey Foundation, which is actually the owner of Massey, the grocery and Massey distribution, who works in the region. They have a program in Trinidad and Tobago where they work with like at-risk young boys who may have the potential to get into activities that may be illegal. So instead of getting them on the streets, we try to take them off of the streets and, you know, get them ready to that new phase of their life where they will transition from a boy to a man. And we, of course, being Nestle Needs Youth and very preoccupied in terms of people being employed, we try to get them ready for the working world and give them the motivation and the confidence that they need to get there. And then I'll just go quickly, Anita, to the Up and Live series, which was us pivoting again through COVID to make, you know, initiatives happen and reach young people. So we use the platform of Instagram to get professionals who would share information on pertinent topics that young people would be interested in. So on screen, you would see something with Dr. Khadija Khan. She's a lecturer from UE in Trinidad, and she shared on mental health. We have had many Jamaican speakers speak on topics like investment and insurance. We've had Brandon Ferguson, we have had Ryan Stashen, we have had Naomi Garrick, who is big on networking and communications and brand building in Jamaica, and we have had them on the platform. So I encourage you to follow Nestle Needs Youth on Caribbean because we have a lot more in store in terms of experts coming to communicate with you this year. And then on the right-hand side of that, you would see UE engineering students store the Valtine factory. So in Trinidad and Tobago, we actually manufacture some products. So we have a factory on site, and we invited some students at UE who are studying engineering to kind of see the operations, talk to our engineering department so that they could get advice and just, you know, motivate them for things ahead in their career that they could look forward to. And then moving forward from that, we have the Get Support, another initiative that we launched last year. We did it virtual. It was meant to be an in-person event where young people would have got the opportunity. And you guys can look out for this because, well, we will be communicating with your school because we plan to launch the same program this year.
Wonderful.
But we essentially, it gives young people the opportunity to interact with our senior management team. So they get to meet the country manager of Jamaica. They get to meet the head of markets for the region. You get to meet the head of human resources, head of corporate communications in an intimate setting where you get to learn from, I guess, experts in the
that's
field.
probably the best thing to do is just to
Where you get to learn from experts in the field and their experience, and you get to ask them questions and you get to connect with them. It's a really exclusive offer, and young people really take advantage of it.
Right. It
And
was
then,
quite an inspiring period, yeah?
correct. Yeah, it was really inspiring. And the students that we had last year really appreciated the fact that they got to interact with, you know, people who you would think are like giants in their career, and they're almost untouchable because you think, oh, wow, he or she must be making X and Y figures. You know, how could I ever approach them? But you got that opportunity there to speak with them one-on-one.
Oh, wow, wonderful.
And then in terms of get more opportunities, of course, we make sure to have signings and alliances with like-minded organizations. So at the top, you would have seen an internship with RBC. So 2 people got the opportunity to work at RBC for 6 months and at Nestle for another 6 months. So they got a year internship program from a manufacturing company and then a financial company, and they came straight out of university, which gives testimony to the fact that we don't necessarily look for candidates who have experience, but those who have potential. Because we know collaboration helps us win, and we get to bring more opportunities to young people when we partner with other organizations. So we have over 40 regional partners. So you'd see some people like Hyatt, you'd see RBC, you'd also see Marriott also there, soon to be adding some other big names, so look out for us.
Very, very soon.
And we have global partners as well. We have EY, Starbucks, Facebook is also a partner on the global scale because Nestle, anywhere there's a Nestle presence, there's a Nestle Needs Youth, and as such, they also have to partner with like-minded organizations.
Wow.
And because you all are communication students, and I love communications as well, because that's my major, we decided to give you all an overview of communications at Nestle. So this is a snapshot here of our website. So you would see featured stories, individuals and families, communities and planet. So the individuals, and families, communities and planet are like the 3 impact areas that Nestle focuses on, because our communications department is heavily focused on doing those corporate social responsibility initiatives, or what we would call at Nestle, creating shared value in the communities in which we operate. So because we're a health and wellness organization, we do focus on individuals and families, and in terms of creating initiatives that help children, help families to lead better and healthier lives. And then we have communities, which would fall under Nestle Needs Youth, and then the planet, because we do manufacture a lot, and the raw materials then eventually go into some of our packaging. So we make sure that we do our operations in a sustainable manner. So those are the 3 impact areas that we make sure to touch on when we do corporate social responsibility, which communications is very, very engrossed in. So in terms of some of the initiatives that you would see us doing, these are just like pictures. So at the bottom right, you would see a Nestle Needs Youth banner, and that's like the normal, typical format we would interact with students at a career fair.
Yes.
On top of that, it got a little cut off, but that was a communication for Parents' Day. So corporate communications will be in charge of something like that. So Parents' Day is coming up on the calendar. I know for sure it's in June because I worked on that communication campaign. You would be responsible for taking the pictures, getting the quotes, scheduling with the agency to make sure that the graphics look well, scheduling with another agency now so that you could boost the posts. I'm sure you're probably the digital communications in terms of sponsoring your ads, etc. All of that is making in a campaign. And then next to that, you would see the orchard sign, and 2 people are holding up an orchard carton. In Trinidad, we had launched our first to launch paper straws. So we no longer use plastic straws for some of our products. We use paper straws instead. And communications would be responsible for creating a communication campaign to sensitize the public on this new and big change. So that would be writing a press release, creating an entire campaign, engaging with the media, taking product photo shots, and you name it. And then on the left of that, we have Camp Unstoppable, which is an initiative underneath our health and wellness initiative on a Nestle, where because we are interested in making sure that our consumers live healthy and fulfilled lives, we target children and we try to inculcate a spirit of eating healthy, knowing about their food groups, etc. So that's where communication came in to create a camp, a virtual camp this year. Normally would be face to face, but this year we did like a camp in a box, and we packaged off items. You probably, I don't know if some people might have saw it on Facebook, but communications is responsible for procuring the items, packaging it, doing the collection of it, creating the program, the virtual program, working with the agency to capture the content and film it and then put it up on YouTube for people to see. At the bottom, we have COVID relief. So of course, if it's corporate social responsibility, it's also initiatives like this. And then the girl that you're seeing here is for International Chef's Day in Jamaica. So of course, we're into celebrating holidays like this because we're a food and beverage company. Corporate communications will be in charge of something like this. We had a competition on Facebook, a wellness campaign where you had a challenge. Every week you had to do something and you had the potential of winning. Of course, again, build brand awareness, which I'm sure you all are you all are versed in, and why companies do that kind of activity. And at the bottom, you would see us doing coastal cleanups because we take care of the environment in terms of us taking care of the planet, and we will launch programs where we have our employees get on board to do different cleanup initiatives for the environment. And corporate communications would lead on initiatives such as this. And then just because you may not want to go into university one time and you may be looking for employment, you can learn more about us through these 2 links. So you can go to the website, you can learn about our Alliance for Youth and see how many partners we have on board. Then you can go to Nestle Needs Youth and you can see testimonials from some of our young people who we have been able to interact with over the years. And if you're looking for job vacancies more specifically, you could take a note of the link that I have there on screen, and you could also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. These are where we try to post up our job ads. Not try, we do post up our job ads, and this is how we solicit most of our talent. And I would say, in terms of being abreast of all Nestle Needs Youth is going to offer this year, please stay connected to at Nestle Needs Youth Caribbean on Instagram. And that's it there for Anita and I. We hope that you had a good time today, and we did not bore you at the end. I know you had to stay to the end to hear about Nestle. I hope it did interest you and you are excited to possibly look at a career in Nestle, or just getting the vast amount of knowledge that we have that can prepare you to work at any other organization through Nestle Needs Youth.
Oh yes,
Exactly.
definitely, Anita. It was fun. It was a fantastic presentation.
Indeed.
We sure would have learned a lot. And I don't know if persons would have missed it. Maybe the internet chipped out a bit. Where you can go to get a little bit more information, Nestle-Caribbean.com or Nestle.com/jobs. Oh, I have one question though. I mean, you mentioned a whole lot of opportunities for employment. Now at DCS, Department of Communication Studies at NCU, we have a lot of talented students, either in graphics like yourself, production-wise behind the camera, even in front of the camera, directing, all these different things. How can we be more involved in Nestle's aim to add value to the lives of young people across the Caribbean? Because it's something that we are very interested in.
Yes.
How can we, even if it's by volunteering with Nestle, how can we say, okay, let's team up and probably create a graphic. One of our camera or director of photographers can make an ad or a documentary, something. How can we be involved in Nestle's goal and mission?
Well, official communication can come from the school. So let's say your department really is interested in doing something like that in terms of collaborating with Nestle on any one of our initiatives. Official communication can come from the school, and we would more than be open and willing to support, especially since we have under the Get Skilled initiative, we have apprentices that we would onboard, which would not mean that you are as you said, you're volunteering your time and we're collaborating together. So more than like just send us communication and we could work from there.
Oh, I would dare say that you should expect a lot of communication from the department.
Indeed.
I'm so thankful for that. What do you have to anything?
And we are happy to have that.
Oh, wonderful.
Indeed. And for the profile, because we need to know who we're hearing from, right, Cornell? So for Alicia Huggins is a Trinidadian working in the Human Resources Department in Nestle, Trinidad and Tobago. She is academically qualified with a bachelor's in communication studies and a minor in human resource management. It has allowed her the unique opportunity to work at Nestle Corporate Communications Department in the past and now in the Human Resources Department. She has aspirations to ultimately lead a career in communications. But in the meantime, she is learning all that she can in HR and taking the opportunity to apply her skills in communications to the field as she works closely on Nestle Needs Youth Innovation. These presentations are so wide and they're so interactive,
right, and
this really lets us know that there are opportunities out there. So we really do thank our wonderful communications persons from Nestle
yes.
to give us information on this, especially in the Human Resources Department.
Yeah. And knowing that opportunities are out there, I think is valuable information to us as students and to us as Caribbean people, because we often think that, hey, we are shut out from the world and the Caribbean have nothing, so we got to get up and leave and run and gone. But there are opportunities for us right here that we can access here. And as you said, these presentations were very, very valuable. And that brings us, that was our final stop for the day.
Wow.
That was our final stop. We had an extraordinary lineup of presenters today to inspire and inform us today.
Yes, indeed, indeed, Cornell. I was just really reflecting a while ago on the first presentations, the first presentation about Germany and how much I can go there and study. And we really just want to say thank you. We want to extend our thanks
Right.
to everyone who took the time out to just come and give their bits and pieces of information to us. We want to thank our crew here in studio. They have been standing and just functioning and just moving all that they have to. And it has been a wonderful morning into the afternoon.
It has been. And what I'll take away from today, you know, I'm big on opportunity. This is one of my goals, my personal goals, you know, in life. I try to create opportunity for other people like myself and just try to empower people to think and believe that their ideas are worth something. And the encouragement, I got encouragement to continue with that goal throughout life today based on the presentation that I heard. So that is what I'm taking away from today. What about you?
I'm taking, I should be prepared, organized,
right.
as I aim for greater. As I go for that master's or maybe the doctorate, you know, I should be prepared. Also aim for the highest. Let's prepare like Usain Bolt.
Oh,
perhaps.
yes, man.
Yes, and of course, hopefully, I'll see myself in Germany there studying.
Tell me about it.
How can we forget our viewing audience?
Oh, we can't.
No, we can't. We have to thank you to our viewing audience for just staying here on YouTube with us. So we had a lot we have so much more to say, but unfortunately we have come to the end of the program. So yes, please continue to tune in to Global Connections right here on NCU DCS TV. Our DCS Week of Excellence continues tomorrow, and the season that you will have is a showcase by DCS at 10 a.m. That's definitely something you want to tune in.
Yes, man.
Yes.
You don't want to miss it at all. No, and I'm Quinel Ming. I don't want you to forget my name, you know, because I'll try to do these things more often. You know, these days people, they don't really see me like this, you know.
Yes.
People see me on campus and they know Ming does graphics, but I'm here now, and this is a nice experience. Thank you to, I want to mention her name, Janelle Powell.
Yes.
And
awesome person.
Miss Bignall. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this
and
opportunity.
Now, Mrs. Cuff, get it right?
Oh my days, Mrs.
Now,
Bignall
Mrs. Cuff.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm grateful, and I'm hoping the students in our department really enjoyed it as well. Yes. Really enjoyed it as well.
I'm Nicolay Gunn. Do tune in to tomorrow Showcase My DCS. Do have yourself a wonderful rest of your day.
On your marks, get set. Are you ready for Week of Excellence 2021? Well, pack your bags and let's go! The Department of Communication Studies Week of Excellence under the theme Developing Skills Built on Character. We kick things off on April 10 with our church service, leading up to April 15 with a grand social. And at 5 p.m. on April 18, we bring the curtains down with our annual Legnum Vitae Film Festival. That's the Department of Communication Studies Week of Excellence, April 10 to 15 and 18, 2021. Be there.
Them no more than we big up Miss Daily. Take the specialty, all the love and energy. Them can't talk as we well Grammy. Journalism, TV, PR, radio. Still one family, yeah, you know it. Go tell you enough, me nah fi share no more info. Everywhere we go, we rep DCS for sure. Week of excellence, them can't pass you without consent. Come out and be proud cause we magnificent. All of DCS full up our talents. Week of excellence. Come from the hills, the valley mountains. Show everybody, bring all of your friends. Make this Sunday a new